If you have your Bibles, turn to Ephesians chapter 6. We've been on a multi-part message series for the past, this is number 5, called Empty. And the first week we talked about how no matter how nice a package looks, if it doesn't have in it what it needs to be, it's just empty. And ultimately, the thing that fills our package and makes us complete is Jesus Christ. We went to Matthew chapter 22, and we if you remember, we read the portion where this religious know-it-all, this hotshot, this guy that thought he had it all together, comes to Jesus and says, what's the greatest commandment? What must I do to be saved? All this stuff, and trying to tempt or test Jesus. And Jesus lays it out, says, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, vertical relationship, and love your neighbor as yourself, horizontal relationship. And so the past several weeks, we've been talking about different types of relationships. We talked about man-woman relationship, husband-wife. We've talked about children. We've talked about other things. And tonight, we're going to talk about a different type of relationship. Now, Tyshawn, if you can, will you hit the first one? If you had your sheet tonight, you would have your first blank on there that would say the motive of how we do relationships is Christ. If you remember a few weeks ago, we went into Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1, it says, be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children. And then in verse 21, the writer says, submit to one another, do relationships out of reverence for Christ. So when all the nice stuff fades away, when, if you're talking romantic relationships, when the romance goes, when the fun times with the kids go and they get on your last nerves, or mom and dad just irritate the mess out of you and you're just like, man, bump them. There's a motive there that supersedes all of that stuff, and that is Christ. So the motive of how we do relationships, the driving force of how we do relationships ultimately is Christ and his example. Tonight I want to talk about, which would be our second big thought, is this. A lot of time in our relational lives dealing with people is spent in the slave-master arena. If we go to Ephesians chapter 6, stick with me here. It says this, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but like slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly, as if you were serving the Lord, not men, because you know that the Lord will reward everyone for whatever good he does, whether he is slave or free. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Don't threaten them, since you know that he who's both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him. Now those words, slave and master, in our country go right away to pre-Civil War American slavery. I want us to try to turn our minds away from that for the purposes of this evening, because the writer here was talking about, in that time period, slaves and masters were more or less like indentured servants. Meaning, if we fast forwarded to our modern day thing, I owe Chase Bank and my credit card $10,000 and I can't pay for it. I'm gonna go make myself a slave, an indentured servant to Chase Bank and work out in whatever Chase Bank is telling me I need to do to pay off my debt. That's kind of the picture that is there. In those days, debt consolidation, chapter 13, 11, and all the other different chapters that exist Peter Francis Geraci and all the other guys with the infomercials, they didn't exist. And so the way in which you paid off your debt was, if you couldn't find the money, if you couldn't be lent the money, was to submit yourself to someone and pay off your debt through labor. Our modern day equivalents would be maybe bosses and employees, right? If we would say this, and Tyshawn, if you would click in here, slaves equal those who are under authority, and masters are those who are in authority. All right? I want us just to talk through a couple things here. Let me get my pen. If I were to say my boss is, my teacher is, my coach is, my supervisor is, what would you fill in the blank with? If I were to say my boss, my coach, my supervisor is blank, what would be something, keep it clean, I gotta, you'll hear it later. What would be some things you would fill in the blank there? Y'all never had a boss or a teacher or a coach or a supervisor? Slave driver, okay, all right. Feel free, you can talk to me. Slave driver, all right. My boss is a slave driver, all right. High maintenance, ooh, high maintenance. High maintenance. Sorry if my spell check isn't on there. I think that's right. But high maintenance. Anything else? Boss, teacher, supervisor, coach. Too demanding. Too demanding. All right. All right. Anything else? Come on, be real. Some of you like, I don't know if I can say. You don't have to say the cuss word of it, but what comes to mind when if I had you fill in the blank, my boss is, my teacher is, my coach is, my manager is, arrogant. Oh, see, now we're starting to get there. All right, arrogant. Uh-oh, the dam has been broken. Mean, obnoxious. I think that's how you spell it. Y'all know what I mean. Your boss is a good listener. That may be the same thing sometimes. Hypocrite, okay? Hypocrite, okay? Your boss, your teacher, your coach, anybody has authority over you. Anything else come to mind? Belittling, okay? Belittle, insensitive. Is that a INSEN? Yeah, that. Understanding. Listens, understands. Okay. Encourage, okay. These are on the good side, all right. All right. Okay. I posted on my Facebook page and asked a question on the flip side that we're going to get to in a minute. And somebody texted me back and said, "Man, what about the flip side? can I say something about my boss? What gets on my nerves about my boss? And my Facebook comes to my phone, and this person said this: I can speak from work perspective. Standardization of their employees, or thinking that everyone is just like them. Some bosses somehow come off as if everyone's style is just like theirs, and they don't get to the point where they click with those whom they lead. This is very important to me. All right, now that's from those of us who are under the boss, under the authority, under, if we use a word that's here in the NIV version, the slave, we are under the master, okay? Now, if we were to flip it, okay, and if you had your nice notes that I left at home on my kitchen table, you would have these things listed on here that would say this. If you were in the shoes of being that leader, and you would say, my employees are blank, my students are blank, my players, my athletes I coach are blank, the workers I supervise or manage are blank. What do you think? What do you think you would say? Maybe you know the answer. Maybe you're in those positions. Or what do you think? Lazy. Woo. Wonderful. 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 Hard worker was one. Okay. Talented. Talkative. That may be right in the middle, depending on what that job is. Okay, we'll put here talk, because I know where I work, sometimes I get on people about that. No initiative. No initiative. Okay. So what? Some people are motivated. Okay. Motivated. Irresponsible. Not organized. All right. Don't listen. Say what? Unorganized. Okay. I got not organized. Don't listen. Okay. We'll do it like this. Listen, not. Anything else come to mind? On my Facebook thing I just posted today, if I would have thought a little bit further, I would have put it out earlier. So people who responded to me said this: disrespectful. I asked what their pet peeve was of their either employees, their students, their workers, or their players. And they said disrespectful, lazy, they feel entitled, won't go out of their way, apathetic, will not follow through with their commitments, which is interesting. Isn't that kind of true how that happens, right? Do you think it's kind of natural for those of us who are under authority? We're the workers, we're the players, we're the students, we're the ones being supervised at work. We don't have the power to make decisions at work. We just do what we're told. A cog in a machine. Don't you think it's natural to have disrespect creep in how we interact sometimes? Or maybe be contemptuous? Or to just kind of get by with the work that we do? And it's just another dollar, another day. I think there's a song about that, another dollar, something like that. Maybe take this job and shove. That's a different song. But yeah, we can get that same mentality.